Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Glad to see the interest for this topic. We're going to be taking everyone through a very hot topic, which is ChatGPT versus Copilot. And we'll get started in a few seconds. I'm supported by my colleague, Selby Coetzee. Selby's our Director of Data and AI. She is definitely the brains behind the Techify AI operation. Selby, thanks for joining me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad I got to pull you away from data projects. But before we get started, let's learn a little bit more as to where you're at in your journey. Hugo's going to pop up a poll. So are you guys using ChatGPT, Copilot? Are you using both? Are you using neither? It's always nice for Selby and I to understand where the audience is at in regards to their journey. So let us know, and we'll take that into context. And as you're filling out your answer, we always like to let you know what's going to be our next hot topic. And our next webinar next month will be about what your business needs and what's quietly wasting your budget. So we're going to learn how AI tools belong in your business, how to protect them in your team, and which ones are quietly wasting your budget. So let's get started. Ready, Selby?
I am.
What are we going to talk about today? Let's walk through it.
Awesome. So we do have a few things planned for today. So of course, we want to set the stage and introduce what to expect in 2026 and really just going through AI in 2026 and this year. And really why it matters and what we believe to be a very important supporting element of making sure that when we adopt AI, that we do so in a deliberate way. And of course, we'll go through ChatGPT and Copilot, what has changed. So really identifying some of the improvements that's been rolled out for 2026 and where each excels. So we really want to help you answer the question, is it Copilot or ChatGPT, or might it be Copilot and ChatGPT? And we'd love to walk you through that. So what should you standardize? And we'll end off with, of course, a conclusion and a Kahoot.
Awesome. So when we think about 2026 and the reality of what's going on nationally, globally, what does that look like, Selby?
Awesome. So of course, we're going to pull up a bit of data here. I am very invested and I love looking at data and data points to help guide us. So really what we're currently looking at is two very interesting data points. The first really is a reflection of how organizations are currently operating. About 8 in 10 currently uses AI for at least one specific business function or workflow. So I do really think that that reflects and is a good point of insight to showcase, the direction that we're moving towards and what we might want to consider when we do look to the future and AI. And then about 90% of organizations are currently exploring or using AI in some capacity. And I think what's really interesting is really understanding what capacity that is. Is this a deliberate rollout, or do we have team members that might be bringing their own AI to work? And I think when we look to more data points here as well, we have about 59% of employees saying that they are using unapproved AI tools at work. So if we think about what data we might be exposing here to a certain degree, of course, this might not be deliberate in nature. We might be sharing sensitive company data with the AI tool here. And I do think it is an important decision point that we might need to reflect on and have a look at. And of course, less than 30% of all organizations currently have a structured AI training approach. So, looking at how we are leading the AI enablement and adoption and having a look at some of the shadow usage and reflecting on what that might look like for a return on investment and the overall roadmap.
That's awesome. For those of you who are watching who don't know the term shadow AI, I would say shadow AI is synonymous with street usage when you're working for an organization. So what does that mean? It means people are finding their own way to use AI tools versus following a process and certain guardrails you've put in place within your organization. I think it's very important to understand as well that when you're looking at these statistics, this is people who are admitting using AI tools within their organization. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that the number is even a little higher. AI can agitate people, even if it's an anonymous survey, but it is being used widely across organizations, not in a structured manner. So why is it important for executives to take some time and to think about this strategy? Employees are using AI again in a shadow manner, and most of them are using ChatGPT. It's the easiest one to use. It's got the biggest market share. Why does it matter for the executives? Because tools are being adopted without direction. So teams are relying on hype or kind of how would you say hallway conversations and how they're going to use this to power their day versus a clear data workflow, identifying the risk and treating AI like a digital workforce versus a gadget. So when we look at AI standardization, we always say that it's a leadership decision. Why is it a leadership decision? Because when you have AI without standardization and guidance, it's going to lead to inconsistent practices, growing data and compliance risk, and lost ROI. So inconsistent practices means if Selby is using AI in a certain manner to serve a client at Techify and I'm doing it differently, that is leading to a different client experience. It is not necessarily supporting our processes. The other thing is when you're building an AI strategy, you're tapping into some incredible data richness. And what does that mean is that you're going to start to capture all the touch points of the tools you're bringing within your tenant or within your environment and be able to capture that data and start to understand on a deeper level how your team is working and how they're interacting with AI, which will then support the long-term strategy of your organization. So you want to standardize how and what AI is used in. You want to standardize how it's used in to make a financial decision, to make a decision related to risk, and to make a decision related to people, and ultimately a decision relating to leadership. And what do we mean by that? We're always a big fan of creating prompt libraries for organization, right? So that everybody, when they're making a financial decision that may be of similar nature, there's already pre-existing prompts created. You're identifying from an HR standpoint how you're evaluating employees using AI tools, but you're doing it all walking hand in hand versus one person going left and the other one going right. So when you think about why we should standardize Selby in 2026, because we thought that AI was going to approach at a much more rapid pace, right? And there was a lot of discovery in the last couple of years, and now we're seeing organizations are ready and they just want to plan. What would be the first things that they start thinking about when they're standardizing?
Sure. So from our perspective and in our experience, one of the first elements really to have a look at is understanding the overarching strategy, structure, and people approach of how you might want to roll out AI within your organization, and really having that lead you through understanding and making a decision on what tool you might want to implement. So for example, would you like to use Copilot, or would you want to use and adopt ChatGPT, or potentially both? We do have quite a few clients who do use both in their organization for different purposes, and we are going to go through some of the newness that relates to both ChatGPT and Copilot shortly.
Thanks, Selby. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to take you through what's changed in 2025. I've been the Copilot queen in the last couple webinars, so I switched hats. I'm now going to support the Chat Plus piece, and Selby will be walking you through Copilot. So when we look at ChatGPT and we look at 2025 to now, what are some of the major changes that have happened? Right now, the memory, the long-term memory is much more effective. There's a lot less repetition. And what happens is it can reliably recall past conversation and it can use them in a context to make it a lot more relevant. So that means a lot less repetition for users, more context continuity, and just a better overall user experience. I think for anybody who's used AI, either Chat or Copilot, we've all had a frustrating experience where you ask or you prompt something that you feel is quite logical or you've asked for before, and the chat is asking you to re-share information you had previously shared. Not a great user experience. So Chat's gotten a lot better, and it starts to understand the context as per the user. GPT 5.2 rollout, what does that mean? It just means it's a lot faster. For those of you who are using Chat Plus, you've probably noticed that you now have the option of saying, do you want a faster answer? Do you want to allow Chat Plus to think a little longer? So what Chat is doing is it's starting to understand that people like to work differently, people have different patience levels, so it's giving you the option to select the speed and the depth of the answer and research you want. So right now, when we look at one of the things I wanted to demo, I don't want to demo every feature, but I wanted to show you one of the shifts that matters in 2026. So when you look at ChatGPT, it'll now maintain long-term business context, as I was just talking about. So right now I'm opening a workspace where we've already built an AI standardization framework, and we're asking it for a CEO summary without re-explaining anything. So there's no need for me to reprompt, no document uploads. It already understood the context, and that's a shift from chatbot to work platform. As a lot of you know, those of you who know Techify well, we are a Microsoft partner. However, Chat is really making a lot of leeway in being able to integrate into Microsoft environments and being able to support different workflows. One of the big frustrations for Chat users in 2024, 2025 was, again, having to repeat information because the chatbot wasn't quite as intelligent and intuitive as we wanted them to be. So how does this affect businesses? You're going from a chatbot to a real work companion. Okay, you're able to build custom workflows, which makes it a lot easier for people within your organization to not feel like they're using an external tool, but rather a tool that is embedded into the workflows that they already use day to day. So Selby, when you look at 2025 and Copilot, what are some of the major changes that you've noticed?
Wow, there's been so many. I do think a few of the major shifts that we've seen with Microsoft 365 Copilot and really just overall is the way in which it integrates with all applications. So of course, we know that Copilot is embedded in all of the Microsoft applications, like for example, Excel, Word, etc. However, it's now becoming its own very centralized platform. So imagine just using Copilot and Copilot being able to go ahead and create a Word document, or in Copilot as a platform going ahead and creating tables in Excel and making sure that we're applying formulas and doing a bit of that data processing. So really having it be embedded in Windows specifically and really just supporting the entire workflow. So of course, with that, we'll see less prompting and a lot more proactive workflows, context being applied, very similar to what we have with ChatGPT. Understanding the business context, it has been a very big improvement, or has seen a very big improvement. It is now able to understand your role in the organization, the data that you are exposed to most often, and it's able to pull that in and refer to other chats you might have had and really base the feedback that it provides to you on that, which I think is fantastic. And of course, with Copilot, we also have the agentic capability seeing a very big improvement. It also has now the GPT models being released at the same time that ChatGPT has it, which I think is a fantastic improvement. But it also now has all of the agent-related templates that's been built in. So seeing RFP agents now ready to go, available in Copilot, and we have a workflow agent example shortly as well. So really coming a long way, I think.
I'd say also, Selby, I completely agree with you because I spend time building agents for myself. And if you have the design component of Copilot with your license, as Selby said, they've created such an intuitive way of building an agent. So sometimes you think it's very, very technical, but an entry-level agent, it's a great experience now because you're coached as you go by Copilot. How does this affect businesses?
Oh, wow. I think it's going to change how all of us operate in a day-to-day basis. So really supporting that digital workforce. And we do think we're going to see that overarching evolution. So having that be in a leadership capacity and support the rest of our team members, but really being able to utilize and be supported by AI is going to be a big game changer in 2026. And then, as we've already mentioned, really having less prompting, but that more proactive approach to being able to use AI and the information and knowledge that it has exposed to it.
Thanks, Selby. I concur. So I know you prepared a couple videos to walk our viewers through some examples of some of the changes in 2026. Why don't you walk us through this workflow?
Sure. This has been one of the most exciting releases, I think, recently, specifically for Copilot. It came out at the end of 2025, but it has seen a big improvement towards the start of 2026. And this is a workflow agent. It is currently available through Microsoft 365 Copilot, and it allows you to build automations through the Copilot interface. So here, for example, we have a workflow being created that will alert a team member, in this case, me, if there has been any emails received over a 48-hour period that I haven't responded to, especially when our days get busy, and I think we all can relate to that. This helps highlight where there might be action necessary or at least a reply needed, especially when there are critical or urgent items that we haven't responded to. So it showcases how this currently integrates with Outlook, for example, specifically for the user, and also Teams in terms of creating that alert and having the user be notified. So you're also able to see a lot of the flow related elements here in terms of creating it for you. You can change it, edit it, and then also have a test run, which I think is fantastic.
This is gold. I think a lot of people in certain positions dread Outlook in terms of the volume of email. How do I know who I need to respond to first? Another thing is that you can share those workflows. So what's nice is we at Techify have agent building competitions, and every quarter, every department builds an agent, but you can share some of your wins with one another when it's something that's transferable. I think you had a second example for us.
Oh, yes.
Walk
So
us through it.
this Absolutely. This showcases the underlying model. So Copilot can now understand the question and really dynamically use a varying model to understand, should this be deep thinking? Should the answer be given a lot more quicker? In this case, for example, we've provided it with a screenshot. So this is not raw text of a report that we have, a specific financial report, and we're just asking it to help compile a report that is ready for the board, and we might want to translate that into a PowerPoint presentation. So what it is currently doing is understanding that it's an image, not raw text, and it is translating that. So it's understanding what that image contains and then analyzing it, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And then we also have the models there top right to showcase that it is using an automatic model, and it also has the GPT 5.2 variability and ability to pull in.
Yes, and I think that sometimes when some of these features, because I know the image reader was one that was a frustrating element for a lot of AI users globally. And I think what's important to understand is, there could be some features that were still apparent in 2025, but here's what we'll say is that now they're refined, right? So when you work with an AI and you create an agent, there's a lot of testing required and you tweak. And so Copilot's really done a lot of testing, and it's rewarded the users because it's a lot nicer to use their tools now. So when you think about ChatGPT versus Copilot as it relates to Excel, Selby and I did a series for the CFO Center a couple months ago, and we really focused on the Excel component. Excel isn't the sexiest of applications when it comes to Microsoft, but it is a very important one. Selby, why don't you walk us through what are some of the wins when it comes to Copilot and Chat for Excel, especially as it's so deeply rooted into finance?
Sure. I think where Copilot has really come a long way in Excel specifically is the understanding of data and how to analyze it. It's no longer just using normal formulas, but it actually is able to apply Python related scripting. But I do want to zoom out a little bit also in terms of the Copilot strengths, which is it is embedded in all of our applications currently. So we are able to use it across the Microsoft toolset and application set, which is where I do think it shines, especially in terms of our day-to-day. We don't necessarily need to go to a different tool to be able to use it. It natively has it integrated, which is fantastic. And then, of course, we also have kind of the in context and the access to all of the information within SharePoint and OneDrive, which is where it shines as well. And now it can pull that information into, for example, Microsoft Excel, Word, and in your central location where you might be using Copilot Chat specifically, be that Teams or perhaps on the web browser. And then it also inherits our security and compliance structures. I think this is one of the most important elements that we sometimes underestimate the value that it adds. So based on permission sets, it's able to understand your role, the access that you need to have, or the kind of documents that you should be able to access versus not. And it applies that automatically without having to really do a lot of editing or structural alignment in the back end. Of course, that does depend on the environment overall. And then it does have that natural fit into the Microsoft standardized environments. It also received those frequent updates. So if Microsoft makes or rolls out any new patches, it embeds it in a different application, it's ready to use immediately.
That's awesome. Now, when we look at chat, which I would say has less clout when it comes to Excel, that's one Copilot's always been a bit stronger at when it comes to CFOs. What are some of the new strengths that you've identified within chat that can support Excel?
Well, there's a few elements in terms of Excel. However, I do think the most important element is the integration. So now ChatGPT can integrate within the Microsoft environment as well. And it is compliant ready, which means depending on the licensing that is used, you can monitor the interactions and elements like that. But ChatGPT, again, is really flexible. It can be customized in terms of the workflow that you might want to use it for, which I think is great and one of its strengths. I do also use ChatGPT quite a bit in terms of brainstorming, especially when it comes to understanding or strategizing, and I use it as my buddy for those elements. I do find Copilot not to be as great in that for that specific use case. And there are also a ton of GPTs that is ready to use in ChatGPT specifically. Of course, there are the elements that becomes available within the community. Once it's approved and released, it's ready to use. There are a few interesting GPTs. One example is a very sarcastic GPT that I like to use on a frequent basis. And of course, it works outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. So if you wanted to integrate it with any other tool, there are a lot of integration opportunities with ChatGPT as well.
And that's huge because Microsoft used to have Copilot embedded and it was solely them. So this is a big development. Thank you, Sally. So when we look at what we see in organizations today, we're seeing that ChatGPT and Copilot excel in different roles, right? Most companies are deploying Copilot broadly by default because of its security and because it's embedded in Microsoft 365. And a lot of companies on a higher level will partner with Microsoft and feel like this is the best solution for them. Teams are still adopting ChatGPT independently and for flexibility. I'll give you an example. I do a lot of AI transformation with various clients, and sometimes people will say, oh yeah, I have a side chat account, but I don't put work information in it. I feel very strongly, we feel very strongly, there needs to be an AI policy within organizations that is providing the AI tools you can use, and those are solely the AI tools that should be used whenever you're interacting with it for a work purpose. Parallel ecosystems inside one organization is what we're noticing. So what's happening is sometimes there is an intent and a little bit of planning, or it's not fully clear with an AI policy. So people are doing a little bit of what they want. And what we're noticing as an AI partner is then we have calls from an owner who will panic because they'll think, oh my God, I'm not in control. People are using tools. I don't know. So I would say it's very, very important that you step into your power as an organization and you set the rules as it relates to AI usage. So without guidance, you're going to have inconsistent AI usage. You're going to have unclear returns on the investments because you're not going to have a strategy in place to have monthly, quarterly checkpoints to understand how are your tools being used, how are you reviewing your data to make sure that it's foundational for moving your business forward. Are you taking on an AI policy that is scalable, right? That will help your business grow. So a lot of things you want to take into consideration. So when we think about which one we should use in 2026, Selby, what do you think?
I think that's a very interesting choice. In terms of kind of where each shines and really what will help you choose Copilot or ChatGPT or potentially both. I think specifically for Copilot, a few of the standouts are really how it's embedded within the Microsoft toolset, the security and compliance related elements that is auto applied once you do get a license within the environment. And really it's a workflow. So understanding that it's easy to use once you, and if you are familiar with Microsoft, to be able to just have it on hand there. So definitely in terms of Copilot, I think that those are the elements that does stand out.
Just really quickly, Selby, I would add as well, for some organizations that are a little AI frightened or AI curious or unsure, what we're noticing is they'll often be much more comfortable going to Copilot immediately versus Chat Plus without understanding the strategy behind it. What about Chat? When do you think Chat's the one we should pick?
ChatGPT really shines when you want to do a bit of creative brainstorming, if you want to do a bit of research, especially that might be quite intensive or extensive. I think it does really work quite well in terms of that analysis, and really also in terms of how it's able to dynamically choose a model that it needs to use. It can think through things a lot deeper and take its time, which I think is quite fantastic. Of course, there are elements there that might need consideration in terms of its flexibility. It is browser based. Of course, there are applications for it as well, but how easy might it be able to use for team members within a specific environment might be consideration here as well. And then if your goal really is to have a specialized AI workflow that might relate to creative thinking and really brainstorming, ChatGPT might be consideration there as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Selby. Another component we wanted to empower all our viewers with was how to approach it from a pricing structure and how to approach it from a setup structure. So when you are working with Copilot and when you're working with Chat, there's a few different options. Okay, so when you look at the Copilot free, if it is embedded in your, if it is part of your tenant, you can choose for it to not feed the LLM, the large language model, but the free version of Copilot is not embedded into your application. So it is not using your data the same way to answer all your prompts. The ChatGPT free version is a basic chat, limited model access. If I'm going to be really front of the net and blunt, I would never use a free version of Chat. It is feeding the large language model. I would also not feel like the information I'm necessarily getting back or the user experience is up to par. When you want to go to a Copilot Premium, you're looking at $20 per user per month. This can work inside Work, Excel, Outlook, etc. And Chat Plus, which is what we do here, is about $20 per user. So what we do is we bought a bulk. Our teams here, they're given a budget every month, and they apply for the tool they want to use, and they have to fill out a form and give us use cases. Why do they want this tool? How are they going to use it? So that we create some accountability. Another thing I'll say is if you have a license that is not being used by one of your team members, you can reassign it to someone else, right? So with Copilot, we often see that with AI transformation. Somebody will use it for a couple months. They're not using it as much. It'll be transferred over. So right now we were talking about the personal use. When we look at businesses, we want Copilot business license. That is about $30 per user per month. That's one option, or Chat Plus business. Copilot Enterprise, which is $30 per user per month, and Chat Plus, which is custom pricing depending on how you want to set up the environment for your team. When you look at the costs, these are US. So you're looking at about $42 Canadian a month for a Copilot Microsoft 365 license. We always urge people to be more on the conservative side. So when you are starting an AI transformation, don't get 30 licenses, right? You create a team, and then you want to be very selective, and then you roll out more as people start using it. So we talked about which ones we should standardize, but we're going to officialize it. Selby and I feel very strongly that we should use both, and Selby will walk you through why we feel that way.
Awesome. So, of course, in terms of AI usage, I think it is great to be able to experiment and be continuously curious. So,
Mhm.
we do recommend being able to use both. In terms of the implementation or what that might look like, we have a few team members that uses ChatGPT. Potentially, they might be a little bit more into creative in their thinking and in their workflow versus other team members that might use or prefer to use Copilot in their workflows because they need that integration capability between Word, Excel, and the central platform. So, really understanding what that might look like and to who you might want to assign a license. Potentially, you might want to procure 5 licenses of ChatGPT, 5 of Copilot, and assign that to team members and really gather that feedback. I think the one element that is extremely important for using both or either really is understanding and gathering the feedback of usage, understanding if there
Mhm.
are elements of return on investment that you can measure. We're very passionate about being able to do that on a continuous basis. So use Copilot for inside your daily workflows. And then, of course, you can use ChatGPT as well for anything of a flexible nature that might be outside of your daily workflows, especially when it comes to cross-team related thinking as well.
Awesome. That's great. We wanted to leave all of you. This is the last chapter of our presentation, which is the uncomfortable truth, which is where society is at right now. We feel in Canada. So right now, even if you have the right tools, what we're noticing as AI experts is you're not going to get the return on investment you want if you don't have the right tools that are supported by governance, that are supported by a strategy, that are supported by training, and that are starting at the top when it comes to AI rules and ownership and leadership. It is not as simple as just turning on a switch. You need to teach your team how do you want to use it, and you need to take some time to build that plan. So even the right tools won't deliver AI ROI without leadership direction. The reason we feel strongly about that again is it starts at the top. So without leadership directions, teams are going to just use different tools. They're going to use whatever it is they want. People again can also have a little bit of shame associated to AI usage if it's not written out in an AI policy. They could be worried about losing their job. They don't know if they're allowed to use it. So it's very important that as leaders we set that tone. You want to ensure you have use cases by department. So what we do when we start working with a client, the first thing I do is I'll go to their office and I'll just sit with them in a boardroom. And I just want them to talk. Talk to me about your workflow. What are your pain points? What keeps you up at night? What takes way too long? Start to understand where there's the quick wins. Data practices become very inconsistent if you don't have a plan. And what you have to realize is when you're starting to roll out an AI strategy, this is an incredible opportunity for data analysis because now you're going to be able to analyze all the touch points within your team, identify efficiencies, identify inefficiencies, and pivot. So a lot of benefits of having that in place properly. And then if you have a proper strategy, you're going to be able to measure the return on investment. So Copilot has analytics. We can work with chat tools. It's understanding how people are using it. Are they using it effectively, and being able to put a number for that gain. So again, shadow AI will continue until you take control over that situation with the policy. But when we look at how can AI leadership happen? How can you start to define the tools? Where do you even start? Which is what a lot of people will say to us. We have right now an AI leadership blueprint that we've put together, and we want it to support high-performing AI organizations. So Selby's going to walk us through this new initiative that we launched that we'd be happy to have you support.
Awesome. So I think in terms of high-performing organizations and their adoption of AI really comes down to, if I had to summarize it in one word, it is intentional, it is deliberate. And I think all of these elements that we will walk through now here really does reflect that. So really invest and make sure that we understand what tools are currently approved to be able to use within an organization, and what are the use cases that we want to make sure our team is trained on, that they understand how to apply AI to that, to be able to see a time-saving impact, or potentially even just a quality of work impact in terms of saving time on those administrative elements and really spending time on elements that they really do want to. So I think that that is one of the elements that's That's truly very important. And always be curious in terms of the underlying security and compliance guardrails. We do see kind of the security element as one of the foundational pieces of using AI. So establish that AI policy to make sure that you have a solid security framework implemented within the organization that protects your data. And then, of course, training and adoption standards. We don't believe that not rolling out training will really serve well in terms of AI adoption. So being deliberate in how that training has been worked out for the year, potentially which team members might need to go ahead and attend that training is important as well, especially in terms of the overarching transformation journey and roadmap for the organization. And then make sure in terms of leadership, our managers are aligned on expectations. We want to make sure our team members have the time to work on AI, to experiment, to create an agent potentially and see how that works out for them. By all means, sometimes you might experiment and see an agent doesn't work out, but that's all good. The time invested there will serve you well in terms of elements that you've learned throughout the process to serve as a foundation for something in the future. And then always measure the productivity and return on investment outcomes, be that in terms of the quality, so understanding how team members are currently experiencing the use of AI, or the quantity in terms of time saved. We can measure to a certain degree how our team members are saving time in terms of using AI, and also how they're really experiencing and exploring AI in their current workflows.
Thanks, Elvie. That's awesome. Hugo will be sending a debrief to this QR code. No pressure at all. What this session is meant to do is to support leadership teams in creating an AI strategy and understanding where they're at in terms of their readiness journey. So it's creating kind of that 90-day roadmap to drive real ROI and to drive real direction. So what we want to do is support you in choosing and setting up the right tools, defining guardrails and best practices for your organization, and identifying use cases and ROI opportunities. This was put together as per peer feedback. So we talk to a lot of CEO groups, we do a lot of research, and what we were told is people don't know where to start. So we want to help you. That's what we do. So if you need some support in regards to finding out where you're at on your roadmap, you'll be sent this QR code as well if you don't have a chance to scan it now. And for those who are new, we have Kahoot. Hugo's going to take over the screen right now, and we are going to take you through a quick knowledge game, and whoever wins this Kahoot can let Hugo know where they want to receive a $25 gift certificate to. All you want to do is go to www.kahoot.it. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer. We use this at all our team huddles at Techify. We have a lot of fun with it. Feel free to use a really fun name. Just make sure you tell us your real name if you win. And we'll get started. I don't know how many questions Hugo prepared, but I'm going to guess it's 8. The speed with which you answer the questions, just so you know, will impact your score. I'll give it another 30 seconds. All right. If you are almost joined, I don't want you to worry. It'll pop you in as soon as Hugo loads it and gets it started. Hugo, I think we're good. Get going. Question number 1. What key risk did we highlight about current AI adoption inside organizations? AI tools are too expensive. AI is replacing too many jobs. AI cannot integrate with business software. AI adoption is happening without leadership direction. And as everybody's answering, Dion, I'm going to answer your question. Does ChatGPT have agents similar to Copilot? You can custom build them. It takes a little bit of planning, but you can create similarities. So the answer was AI. I wasn't fast enough. We got 11 people got it right. THFC is in the lead. Question number 2. Which statement best describes how ChatGPT has evolved from 2025 to 2026? It is now only used for casual conversations. It now maintains long-term context and memory across work. It only works inside Microsoft applications, or it is no longer supporting custom workflows. It now maintains long-term context and memory across work. Let's see who's in the lead. JR. All right, number 3. Which statement best describes Microsoft Copilot's evolution from 2025 to 2026? It's now deeply embedded across M365 and Windows workflows. It replaces M365 entirely. It is a standalone chatbot outside business apps. It focuses only on answering search inquiries. It is now deeply embedded through workflows. All right, halfway there. What typically happens when organizations deploy AI tools without leadership direction? There's immediate measurable ROI, fragmented usage and unclear ROI, perfectly consistent adoption, or automatic compliance improvements. Next question, JR still in the lead. Let's see, number 5. Which of the following is part of a high-performing AI leadership operating model? Letting each team choose any AI tool they want, avoiding AI training until tools mature, measuring success only by tool licenses purchased, or defining approved platforms, guardrails, and use cases. We're on a streak with the 11s. Defining approved platforms, guardrails, and use cases. Use cases is the way in which you could use AI. It's just a workflow. JR is on a streak. Number 6 of 8. 3 more questions, everyone. What was the core message of today's call to action? Don't let AI standardization happen by accident. Wait until AI technology stabilizes. Let AI adoption happen naturally, or buy AI tools as quickly as possible. Step into your power. Correct. All right, next one. Dara's hanging on to his lead. In the ChatGPT demo shown during the session, what capability did the example specifically demonstrate? ChatGPT generating images, ChatGPT remembering prior business contacts without reprompting, ChatGPT translating languages, or ChatGPT searching the public internet? Nice work. Prior business contacts, so not having to re-explain yourself every time. JR, you got one more question. Number 8. According to the session, what is the most common AI standardization model in 2026? ChatGPT only standardization, Copilot only standardization, a hybrid model using both platforms, avoiding AI standardization entirely. Correct. And when we say a hybrid platform, everyone, we don't mean that everybody needs to be using 3 different tools, but sometimes it's nice to give people the option to use a safe platform that's a better user experience. So let's see who our winner is. Number 3, CMDG, nice work. Number 2, EHL. And number 1, consistently, pretty much, JR, nice work, fantastic. So this brings us to the end of our webinar. Selby and I are happy to stay and answer some questions if you want to put any in the chat. Hugo's going to pop up a quick poll because we do these webinars for you. We want to support education and thought leadership. So please let us know how you felt about the webinar. Let us know any other topics you would want to hear about. We're happy to take your advice. We curate all of this material for you. So always like to know what your feedback is. And we thank you very much for your time. Selby, thanks for being here with me. Hugo, thanks for supporting and creating everything. And to everybody who joined this webinar, have a great day. We have a team here to support if you have additional questions. You'll be getting an email. Feel free to respond, and we're happy to meet with you if you want to explore AI transformation. All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.